I appreciate in today's modern world, some people get into the self-help world and they end up developing idols, heroes like Tony Robbins. Some people just idolize like Brené Brown, Marie Forleo, Brian Tracy. Who else you got? Seth Godin. You got some other people out there in the self-help world who are banging their drums and unleashing the power within, and it's fantastic. It's all great. All right, but I'll be honest with you, I can't get past this guy. This guy is my primary source of all wisdom and insight and knowledge. Wise old Master Yoda. Do you remember? You ever seen Star Wars? I'm going back to my own youth here. Star Wars, I remember being mesmerised by those movies, kind of opened my eyes to the scale of space and the universe that we're living in, even though it's all just kind of George Lucas filmology. Why's Master Yoda? I think it was in the Return of the Jedi movie where young Master Luke, he was having some self-doubts, wasn't he? He was riddled with low confidence and low self-esteem, and he said, "Oh, Master Yoda, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure if I'm cut out to defend the galaxy and take down that nasty Lord Vader. I don't know if I can do it." So, come on, this is a real relevant thing. Luke Skywalker was riddled with insecurity, so he went to see this wise old chap, Master Yoda. What did Master Yoda say? Master Yoda said, "Master Luke, there is no try. There is only do or do not do," or words to that effect. So I've just kind of modified that just a little bit. Just in case you have tried to be confident at some point in the past. There is no I try to be confident, and there is no boosting confidence. Even though some people claim that it's possible to boost one's confidence. That's nonsense. One is either fully secure in one's self, or one is not. Right, just in case you didn't understand my kind of Yoda accent there is no I try to be confident, and there is no boosting confidence. Right, anyone who says they have a 5-step cure or process for boosting your confidence is telling you fibs. They're talking nonsense. They don't know what they're talking about. All right? One, you, I, are either fully secure in yourself, we're either fully secure in ourselves and at peace with ourselves, or we're not. And that's it. Right? There is no boosting confidence. It's not like you can go and plug yourself into a charger and whoo, there we go. It doesn't work like that. All right? So, let us understand the 8 different categories of confidence. Come on, am I taking a bit of an unconventional approach? I know I've not got whitened teeth and slicked back hair and telling you to go and unleash your power within and love yourself and all that kind of nonsense. Because it doesn't work, does it? Come on, it's dribble, absolute garbage. Confidence is the trust or the belief that we have in someone or something. So, in response to your life, confidence is the trust and belief that you either have or don't have in yourself, in you, in your capacity to deliver. Right, I like to propose that we'll experience confidence in 3 different ways. All right, there's a confidence that we have in who we are. If we are confident in who we are, then we don't have any self-esteem issues, because confidence and self-esteem are very, very different. There's then the confidence that we have in our ability to learn and solve problems. Now, the problem with the confidence that some of us have in our ability to learn and solve problems is because a really wise group of people called the American Psychological Association decided all these years ago that it was relevant and appropriate to diagnose certain types of learning as mental disorder, right? Which I got to experience firsthand when going through school. I was absolutely horrified one day to get called retarded. That's right, I know that's not a politically correct thing to say anymore, but that's what I was called back in my youth. I was called a retard, right? Educationally retarded. I had educational special needs. So retardation came before special needs. Even saying that a person has special needs, that's become politically correct today now as well. Politically incorrect, sorry. So I was diagnosed as being dyslexic, right, when I was in school. Because I didn't retain information in the same way as some of the other boys and girls. Now, I wasn't the only person that struggled with this, all right? I've always had a very, very fast-paced mind. Now, the only kind of saving grace I had back then was that bipolar and ADHD hadn't been invented yet by these smart cookies, because if bipolar and ADHD had been invented, there's a pretty good chance I would have got diagnosed with these things as well. But I didn't. I was just a dyslexic retard. So, the reason why I tell you that is because I didn't retain information by looking mindlessly up at a chalkboard, writing down all the information that came out of teacher's mouth. All right? When teacher assigned an exercise, now go and read this chapter of a book. Right? I really struggled to focus on the words. I was like, I just wanted to ask questions and talk about stuff. Right? And it actually wasn't until my late 20s that I discovered learning styles. All right? This isn't a new concept. Learning styles is an idea that's kind of evolved through the latter thinkers and pioneers in developmental psychology. All right? Which is why psychology and its different schools have given us a balanced understanding of our human experience. All right? Developmental thinkers have said, right, there's not only one type of intelligence. It's not like one is either intelligent or one is not intelligent. Some people have listening intelligence. Some people have visionary intelligence. Some people have musical intelligence. Some people are intelligent in how they communicate. Some people are intelligent in how they relate and empathize with others. You can have emotional intelligence. You can have intellectual intelligence. Right? You can have interpretative intelligence. You can be intelligent in multiple directions, in multiple ways. It's not a fully in, fully out sort of thing, which is what the cultural belief was going back like 30, 35 years ago. Now I know today, at this point in history, you'll have fully grown men and women in their 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s whose confidence has been absolutely booted for years because they genuinely have grown to believe that they have an inability to learn. Because some teacher told them that they were dyslexic or retarded or had special needs back in their youth. Now the reason why I say that is because that absolutely crippled my confidence for the first 30 years of my life. 30 years! I didn't think that I could learn. I didn't know. No one told me that it's actually possible to learn in different ways. No one told me that it's possible to be intelligent in different ways. Right? Am I a relatively intelligent communicator? Well, I reckon I'm reasonable. I'm certainly not the worst out there. I've been doing it for decades. Right? I know how to do this. I can communicate well. I understand this stuff. I've been researching it for decades. Am I intelligent? Do I have intelligence in the human condition? Yes, I do. I understand humanness. Right? There isn't anyone. People come to me with problems all the time, right? We'll kind of have to put some boundaries around this these days. But for years, as I mentioned, I worked as a coach and as a counsellor, and no one ever came to me with a problem that I wasn't able to help them resolve for themselves. Now look at the words that I'm using. What I didn't say was I was the guru who fixed people's problems for them. There's lots of people like that out there who just say some magic words and make all sorts of ailments disappear. But I understand better than that. I understand there's nothing that I can do that can make you feel anything. There's nothing that I can do that can make you take those next steps. I can't heal you or cure you. All I can do is share what I understand in a certain way with which, if you kind of resonate with these ideas, you might grow in some realizations within yourself and therefore change in whatever ways you need to. All right? So, we experience confidence in who we are, or lack thereof. We experience confidence in our ability to learn and solve problems. The problem is that we may have learned through school or education that we can't learn through receiving some misinformation. That's the introduction over. Right. Let us now look at 8 categories of confidence. Those are like the 3 ways in which we experience confidence, but here's now 8 categories of confidence. Let me explain. Self-confidence. All right, which kind of walks hand in hand with the belief that we have in ourselves. Now, self-confidence is the belief that we have in our abilities, our knowledge, our character, and our judgment. Our ability to make wise and sensible, accurate decisions about ourselves when it comes to determining what we do, how we act, how we behave. And some people will say, but I have some beliefs. Don't hold your beliefs so precious, my friend. Do you know what beliefs are? They're just ideas. All right, we're brought into this world as clean slates, and then we are impressionable, and sometimes mum and dad will tell us some stuff, or teachers will tell us some stuff, such as we're dyslexic, such as we're this, such as we're that. I was called retarded. Maybe you've been branded with some sort of disorder or condition or disease. How do you know that they know what they're actually talking about? Whose word have you taken as gospel? All right, come on, we've got to think about these things. Because if you've taken someone's word as gospel who didn't take time to get to actually understand you, you're building your life on some very, very shaky grounds. You don't need to, right? You don't have to. So, self-confidence is the belief that we have in our abilities, knowledge, character, and judgment. All right, so how is it that we grow in self-confidence? Simple. By committing to the process of growing and improving and developing ourselves, which only happens once we have a vision for this. We then have self-efficiency, which is very different, all right? Some people go through life addicted to self-efficiency, which some people will mistake as confidence, but it's not. Self-efficiency is just a situational confidence, that's all. It comes and it goes, it fleets. It's influenced by external determinants. I'll give you an example here. What example could I give? Okay, so I spent a number of years after terminating my military service working in sales. Now sales, as you can probably appreciate, is a targets-driven environment. So I was given a target of selling so many units in a week or a month. When I meet my targets, yes, I've done it, I've succeeded, I'm a success. Then the weeks I didn't meet my target, oh, I'm useless, I'm rubbish, didn't meet my targets this week. That's the best example I can give of situational confidence, where the confidence that we have is based upon our ability to deliver upon someone else's expectations or demands. All right, come on, that's not sustainable, you know it's not, but yet some people get addicted to this. A story that I've told in one or two of my other trainings and books is based on an article that I read maybe 10, maybe 15 years ago. It was an article in which Madonna, the Queen of Pop, was interviewed by a reporter who was writing for Vogue magazine. And this reporter had asked Madonna, okay, so, you're in your late 50s now, or 50s back then, what drives you? Look what you've accomplished throughout your career. You've got so many chart-topping albums, you've had so many worldwide tours, you're a household name, so many chart-topping number ones, you've written biographies, books. Wow, what a life. And Madonna had a bit of an interesting response to give, because she'd come through, I think, 4 or 5 marriages, different children to different men, some of which she'd adopted. And at this stage of her life, she was single again. And she said, what drives me is this kind of longing, this deep internal need just to feel some sort of belonging. It's kind of like, I commit to achieving something with my life, and then I reach the top and I get the gratification, only to come out the other side and realize that the gratification goes. It's like, I go from one success to another, and it's kind of like I'm addicted to success. I don't know if I'm ever going to experience this fulfillment that I really, really want. This kind of emptiness within me has always been there, and I can only guess that it always will be. And there's an idea that I like to share sometimes, that a perceived internal core, a perceived internal deficit or an empty core can serve as a very, very powerful motivator. Think about who you might perceive as being some of the greatest achievers in the world. Think about, talking about men and women who have done some big things. I'm not going to say great things, I'm going to say big things, for better or for worse. Think about, controversially, Adolf Hitler, Donald Trump. I'm not putting them all in the same category here, I'm just naming some people who've done some big things. Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Madonna. Who else is big these days? I don't know. Lady Gaga? I'm not sure. I don't know who's kind of chart topping these days. All right, 10 years ago when I first started creating online training resources, my goal was I want to be famous, I want to be popular, I want to be the next biggest name in the world. All right, why? Why on earth would I want to be the next biggest name in the world, whatever that means? unless I was kind of operating out of some form of internal deficit, like who I am isn't enough, therefore I need the world to see how great I am. All right, as you'll be hopefully grateful to hear, I kind of outgrew that throughout my 30s, all right? Now in my 40s, all I want is stability in my life, right? Complete stability, all right? Fame, fortune, being there, tried that. It's exhausting, honestly, hate it. So, self-efficiency. It's a situational confidence influenced by external determinants. Then we have illusory superiority. Now, this is an interesting one. A tendency for people to view themselves as superior in certain areas. Right, okay. Again, I can only talk of my own experience here. I'm here to be completely transparent and honest with you to help you understand. So when I was in the military, I remember getting my first taste of promotion. I would have been maybe 19 years old. I got promoted to Lance Corporal. I got chosen. I got chosen above and beyond maybe 100 others. In fact, I do recall, I think I was actually one of the youngest Lance Corporals in the British Army at the time when I got promoted. Oh, must have been something pretty special about me, wasn't there? And oh, did I let everyone else know about it. I got chosen, I'm a Lance Corporal, you will do what I say. And it's kind of like, we know it's silliness. But in more extreme ways, then we have some people who manage to work their way to the top of organisations, but because of their own ingrained insecurity, they end up kind of not just undermining themselves, but undermining their teams, which in turn goes on to undermine their entire organisations. Illusory superiority, all right, where people think that they are superior to others because of a rank that they have gone on to ascertain, all right. It's called delusion. Delusion, my friend, delusion. So then we have false optimism. Some people would refer to this as toxic positivity. Toxic positivity. The tendency to underestimate or undermine difficulty or potential risk. And it's kind of like where, you know, you've just lost your job, or you've just been dumped, or you've just plucked up all your courage to ask someone out on a date, and you get a big fat Freddy rejection. And then you're sitting there telling your best friend about it, just wanting a shoulder to cry on, and the person says something like, "It's all right, it's okay, that was just the wrong person for you. Perhaps you just weren't destined to be together." And all you want to do is like kick them in the teeth and get all violent and stuff, which obviously I am not advocating. Don't advocate violence. But false optimism, all right? We definitely do not need that in our life. All right, it's like that individual. You know, sometimes, you know how self-help world, if you look at some of those who've managed to work their way through the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, I'm not going to name any names here. We've got some certain ladies and gentlemen who are still operating in the self-improvement world in their like 50s and 60s, and honestly, it's like their faces are about to crack. They were able to use moisturizer and makeup back in their 20s, 30s and 40s. But now they're like in the 50s and 60s, they've got a few wrinkles, and honestly, they're like, you know, the smiles up here, and they're like, it doesn't matter what's coming out of their mouth. It's like, the world's gonna end, and they're like, their eyes are like fixed up and they're cheesy, and the hair's still blowing in the wind, and they're talking about doom and gloom in a really optimistic way. Like, we're facing economic downturn, but come on, just unleash the power within. You can do it in the middle of this kind of economic downturn that we're in. And you don't need optimism in your life, do you? Of course you don't. All right, it's absolutely toxic. But it's what many people choose over this kind of development of self-confidence that comes through our willingness to work hard and develop and improve ourselves. This is just like ideological thinking. Right? Some people might refer to it as silly thinking. Well, I'm not going to call it silly thinking because you might disagree. I don't want you to disagree with me, do I? Of course I don't. Some people then buy into arrogance. Arrogance, which is, I know better than thou. All right? Have you ever heard or come across a person who will just be very, very quick to either agree or disagree? It might be the case that you are agreeing and disagreeing with some of what I say. Does that, when you agree or disagree, does that then therefore mean that I'm either right or wrong, or that you're right? Or does it just mean that you're right all the time? Because that's kind of what arrogance is. When we take this approach of agreeing and disagreeing with people, what we're essentially saying to them is, yes, What you're saying right now, I agree with. It aligns with what I deem to be true. And when I disagree with you, it's because I, fail to see how there's any sense in what you're saying whatsoever. It does not fit into alignment with what I deem to be true. Therefore, what I deem to be true is obviously gospel and therefore universally true. My perspective is the only perspective. In fact, I'm a little bit crystallized in my thinking. Right, okay, so we're moving beyond this a little bit. Crystallized thinking gives birth to arrogance. Self-centeredness with a common disregard for situations or other people. Arrogance will tell you that I don't care about you. All I care about is me being right. It's kind of like where sometimes husbands and wives get into heated arguments and debates. What are arguments centered around? Arguments are generally always centered around one or more parties' desperate need to overpower the other person and fundamentally be right. There ain't no room for arrogance in healthy, meaningful relationships. Acceptance, patience, compassion, yes. Optimism, arrogance, no. This is kind of like the bottom of the competence heap, right? Some people will cling on to arrogance because it's all they've got. Some people say that ignorance is bliss. No, it's not. Ignorance is just worthless. It's not helpful at all. Hubris. Hubris is an interesting one. All right. Hubris has a great way of offending people, honestly, once we know what it is. So hubris is this persistent arrogance that becomes entrenched in a specific culture or social group. Now, what I'm not going to do here is I'm not going to give reference to any specific religious group. I'm not going to give reference to the flat worlders. I'm not going to give any reference to certain political parties. I'm definitely not going to say that you'll find hubris in certain political parties or in certain social groups of people. And you'll very, very rarely find hubris in religion or hang about. That's exactly where you find hubris. All right. In Scotland, religion died like decades ago. You got like the Church of Scotland's barely clinging on. A bunch of ladies and gentlemen, usually in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They're just kind of hanging about, waiting to die, and sing the songs on a Sunday morning. But essentially, religion became culturally irrelevant because religious groups just don't add any value into society, which is why religion becomes irrelevant. So instead, where do all the guys go and most of the ladies these days? To football, right? We're a sporting nation. Not the best at it, but we like it, all right? So most Saturdays, if you're not in COVID-19 government-imposed lockdown, you find most men and many ladies going to the football match. Doesn't really matter what team they support or what team they're going to watch. Whatever team they are going to watch is the best team, and that's it. It's the right team. It's the greatest team in the world, in fact. Never mind your Valencia, never mind your Barcelona, never mind Manchester United or Manchester City or anything like that. Dunfermline United all the way, all right? Seriously, it's kind of like, it's hubris. I have chosen the right team, which therefore means that you are on the wrong team. All right, I've chosen the right religion, which therefore means that your religion's bad. And even if you claim to be of a similar religious mindset than me, or as me, my God's still the right God. I'm not sure that you believe in the right God. I think you believe in the wrong God, in fact. It's hubris. It's kind of like arrogance wrapped up in a ball with a little bit of pompousness, a little bit of silliness, quite a lot of deception, and a whole... and not very much compassion whatsoever. Hubris, a persistent arrogance that becomes entrenched in a culture or social group. Again, when I was in the military, it's kind of like it was suggested onto me that being part of the great British Army is kind of like being part of a superior human race. So obviously, when I went through my 10 years of military service, I was like super confident. I would walk into bars on the weekend. I'd be like strutting my little pigeon chest, all right, walk in like that, and that's right. The nation's finest has just walked in the door. That's right, the nation's finest is upon me, until I left the army. And then I spent a couple of years desperately clinging on to, yeah, you know, I used to be one of the nation's finest, right? I used to be one of the nation's finest. And this was kind of when I started having to read my psychology textbooks, because my confidence began depleting rather quickly as I had exited this superior human race and I was just becoming a mere civilian. My confidence took a nosedive out the window. Or did it? Did I lose my confidence? Or did I just not have it to begin with? Oh my goodness, so many questions. I'm getting you thinking now, haven't I? Which is what we need to do, isn't it? We need to think. So the last thing I want to give you to think about now is what you actually want, all right? Entertainment aside, I'm hoping that by now you're starting to warm to me and my abstract sense of humour, all right? But I want to advocate two types of confidence. Self-confidence is where it's at. All right, I want to give you a basis and a foundation for developing sustainable self-confidence and genuineness. And the reason why I've put that last is because unless you develop this sustainable self-confidence, i.e. an accurate and sensible belief in your abilities, your knowledge, your ability to grow in these things, unless you're committed to the process of developing and expanding your character by growing in maturity, responsibility, decisiveness, consistency and in strength, and you're reaching a place where you're able to make sounder judgments about yourself and people, you're going to struggle with genuineness. How can you be genuine if you don't know who you are?